Good morning. It is 10 to 7 again. All our efforts to get going earlier fail, and we've now narrowed it down to one common denominator.
See, she's doing the blame game.
This thing is too slow.
But I'm so handsome. That makes up for a lot. Well, other people would say I'm not so handsome, but I don't believe them.
If anybody has any tips how to get husbands to get up in the morning.
Besides electric, I don't want to be electrocuted.
Besides electric shocks, because I don't have access to 240, or water because I don't want to drown the down quilt. Any other tips? Gratefully accepted. Got a bit of a climb up a rock outcrop this morning. Makes a nice change from the woods. A lot of down trees, mind you, but they're all sort of reasonable height. But yeah, this is almost a view. Well done, Oregon. Okay, now that is a view. I'm not sure of what. A body of water shimmering in the distance there. It's the day of the long shadows. Hey, this one's so long it doesn't end.
As you should be recognising now, I've got a new pack. It's the Hyperlite. Unfortunately, the new Gregory's are not what they used to be.
No.
We've met quite a few people that have fallen apart, but we've met people who've got 5 or 10 year old ones that
are still going strong.
They're like tanks. Nothing happens to them.
So yeah, Gregory's obviously, whatever they've done in this recent year to change production, suppliers, outsourcing, stitching, I don't know, it's not working. Reverse it, because my Gregory, which is about 500 miles old, is already showing signs of wear and tear that are not due to me being rough.
Yeah,
so yeah.
We're going to probably take both of them back. Definitely take mine back.
Yeah.
Or probably take Heidi's back, because
I don't trust that it'll last. And unfortunately, Gregory is not sold, as far as we know, in the UK. So if I get it home and it falls apart, then I'm screwed. Good night trail this morning. I mean, nice from, you know, not from this perspective, but from that perspective. Oops. Except I can't walk without shaking you all about, so I better turn this off.
Beep, beep, beep. I've been told to watch my language. Beep, 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 beep.
That's a truck reversing. We have reached the Divide Trail, and people have been very, very keen to point out that, I don't know, you can read that on these, not the PCT. PCT. I'm guessing a lot of people have gone the wrong way in the past, because I mean, yeah, there's a big sign on the tree here saying PCT, so you know. Yep, today is a nice day for views. Well, Godox once again has not been working all morning, so we're taking a small guess that we are where we are on the map, but that would make this Devil's Peak, if we're right. Certainly looks like a peak, slightly devilish as well. It's quite a climb today for flat Oregon.
Nice views. Heidi's suffering with a blister. Not really good on these stones. Nice valley. Sun shines out again. You can still see that lake back there.
Oh, I should also clarify about the blister. Having spent coming up to 1,500 miles telling you guys how wonderful keens are and how you don't get blisters in them. The blister I currently have at the bottom of my right foot is entirely self-inflicted. I noticed yesterday at lunchtime that my gingies had worn through on the right foot and I did nothing about it because the spare pair was buried deep in the pack. So yeah, still maintain the boots are great, but if you're too stupid to change your socks when they've worn out, then you will suffer the consequences. Okay. So we weren't where we thought we were, which means that one of these things we're looking at here is Devil's Peak.
Oh, it's gone clearer.
Hmm?
It was a bit misty when I first took my photo.
Yeah, seems to have gone a bit clearer. It's beautiful.
There's Heidi. There's a lot of rock here. I think the water source is about half a mile to a mile that way. And this is the top of the mountain. Oh no, we're going down this side. What a view. Knackered like, but what a view. And mountains in the background there.
It's a little old man coming down the hill. There he is. This looks a lot further away than I really am from him, by the way. He only took like a minute longer to get up, that's all. Made it to the water source.
Some breakfast.
Time for breakfast. And we've just learned from some very helpful southbounders that the next water source we were eyeing up is dry. So it looks like we're sort of at this water source here. That will be the last viable one, and anything after that is non-existent. So I think we're filling up to the max. There's a mud-coloured frog hiding in the mud. Don't. Now I can see you. Now you're not in the mud anymore. Tiny little thing. Apparently. We have reached 800 miles. What? 1,800 miles.
Minus what we missed in the Sierras.
Minus what we missed in the Sierras, yeah. None of these mile markers are very useful anymore, but that means that in about 2 miles we will have legitimately hiked 1,500 miles. I was impressed with how small the frogs were earlier. These ones are even tinier. And they're everywhere. They scatter as you walk through them. It's funny. There's another rock. Oh no way. Tiny. Can you see all the movement on the trail?
There's Mummy Bear.
Flat as a pancake. Are you responsible for all these things crawling around?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be difficult walking through without flattening some of them. Back in normal Oregon terrain. Lunch break. My blister just burst, so I'm letting it dry out in the sun.
My blister hasn't, so I got them in the shade.
We're eating healthy, as always. done about, what, 17 miles so far since this morning? Which is probably a record for us before lunch, but then we're also slightly late for lunch, but there you go. Ooh, the sun is doing funny things in the trees. Pretty. So we've hit the extended burn area at 4 p.m. Pretty much the hottest part of the day. Everything's nicely exposed and grilling us. On the plus side, no mosquitoes. There's the sign the Southbounders made to save everybody the bother. Jack Spring is dry. We're within what we're hoping is our last hour of hiking. We're still not out of the burn areas, which means all the camp spots we were aiming for are in the burn area. We've bypassed quite a few already, but it doesn't look like this area stops, so just as a heads up to anybody hiking this trail in the future. From about the Mackay Camp trail crossing, which is where we had lunch, you're in burn areas for about 7-8 miles. Not quite a spot we had been aiming for, but we found this about 0.5 earlier. An oasis of actual green living trees in the middle of the burns. So this is where we're pitched, hoping that none of those things will come down overnight. And these trees all look perfectly healthy. And there were no twigs or anything bigger than that lying on the floor, so hopefully this isn't too bad. Yeah, trail's just here.
Yeah, and the sites all in front of us are all in burn areas as well.
Yeah, in case you didn't catch that, the voice from the tent says all the other sites that we were aiming for were also in burn areas. So I mean, there's just not, the burn area doesn't end until about the Crater Lake National Park, I think.
Yeah, and we can't camp there.
And precisely there, dispersed camping is not allowed unless it's at least, a mile from the road. And as you don't know where the roads are, basically dispersed camping is not allowed. So
we've heard the campsite
at Mazama village, yeah,
is not as welcoming as most campsites.
Yeah, there's some weird rumours floating around about them. They don't seem to be too hot on PCT hikers, so you know, it's fair enough.
Yeah.
We're not the best customers, but we don't go where we're not wanted, so Mazama is out. Plus it would have been another 8 miles, let's be honest, we wouldn't have had that in us anyway.
No, I wouldn't.
So this morning we set off as early as it is possible with that guy.
And she just doesn't wake me up early enough. I need at least 2 hours to wake up.
Okay. Yes, and we started. Yes, there was a bit of a climb. Today had a surprising amount of climbs in it. These, nothing drastic, but all these little ridges, sort of gentle ups, until we hit what we thought was a top point at the Divide Trail, which then continued to climb. So obviously it wasn't. And yeah, this is where these really interesting rock formations were. One of which was called Lucifer. I don't know which one, sadly, because we had kind of lost where we were at that point. And the other one, the Devil's Peak. Now the Devil's Peak was the one I showed you right at the end, because that was the high point. And then the switchbacks started to go down.
That took ages.
It did take longer than expected, yeah, because they weren't very favourable on the feet, let's put it that way. So we finally got to the water source, filled up with water, had breakfast there, made sure absolutely everything we had was full of water by the time we left, because there's a couple of water sources coming up in the next 2 miles, and after that, nothing. So we were still full for all of them. Then the next water source is not until Mazama village, which is, yeah, because as the southbounders told us here at the source, there is a spring that's 0.8 off the trail that apparently is dry. So we knew we were going to have to conserve water. And we dropped down to these trail junctions here and then started another climb. This one much gentler, but also longer, to Mackay Camp Trail, which is where we had lunch. And from then on, pretty much you're in burn areas. I mean, all of this is burn area. That's the spring, Jack Spring. That doesn't apparently exist anymore, or not at the moment. And we just continued in burn areas. All this way. We passed the first couple of campsites that were listed, but we were trying to head for a later one, in the hope that we might get out of the burn areas. But we passed both of these, and we're now sort of here-ish, 13.5. And we're still in the burn area, so yeah, it's just no good.